Welcome to INFS 321 Information Sources. In Section 8, we'll be looking at bibliographies. Students, you may recall that in previous sessions, we have looked at a classification of information sources called source types. So we did all the source types in the previous sessions, and now we are going to look at bibliographies, what we call the control access directional sources. So at the end of this session, I expect that you'll be able to explain the uses of bibliographies, to also state the elements which make bibliographies meet the need for control and access, and then we'll be looking at the different types of bibliographies. So in our first topic, we'll just have an overview of bibliographies. We'll look at national bibliographies for our second topic. And then the third topic, we'll look at trade bibliographies. And then the fourth, we'll look at other bibliographies. For our reading list, we have CATS. So try and read CATS because it really explains what bibliographies are. So what are bibliographies? Bibliographies are lists. Bibliographies lists is a list of written, printed, or otherwise produced records of civilization. And the list of works, whether complete or selective, they are compiled based upon some common principle. And these include the author, the title of the publication, the publisher, the place of publication, and other issues. Now, bibliographies are not necessarily confined to books, because these days we do have a lot of formats of information, such as online databases or CD-ROM. So you have bibliographies also listing online databases and CD-ROMs as well as networks. For an effective bibliography, we need a number of elements. So now we're going to look at the elements which are important for bibliographies and for control and access of bibliographies. 1, completeness. A bibliography should be complete to the extent that we'll be able to find out what is available today, what is available in the past, what was available in the past, and what will be available in the future. It includes the world and not only one nation's works. Another element of bibliography is access to a part. The bibliography should be so analytical that you'll be able to find the smallest unit in the book. So it should give you access to the author, the title, the place of publication, the publisher. So access to a part in the bibliography is important for this particular element. Another element is the various forms. As I said, materials can appear in various forms, either in book format, or in various types of electronic resources. So the bibliography should indicate what form that information or what that material, the format of it. Is it a book form, or is it a CD-ROM, or is it an online database? So, to sum up, we can say bibliographies provide completeness, elements of completeness, access to a part, and various forms. So now we'll look at uses of bibliographies in general. Bibliographies are used to identify and verify. You may ask, what are you trying to identify? What are you trying to verify? As I mentioned, bibliographies are lists, and they should tell you who the author of a particular item which is listed in the bibliography is, the title of that publication, the edition, the price, the ISBN, the ISSN if it exists. So that is one use of a bibliography for identification and verification. Another use of a bibliography is location, to be able to locate where is the material published, or where can it be found in a particular library, or where can it be published, where it can be purchased, or for online purposes, where can you find that particular site. So a bibliography is also used to locate materials. And then a third use of a bibliography is for you to select from a vast number of publications. So the three main uses of bibliographies include identification and verification, location, and selection. There are several types of bibliographies, and we refer to these as systematic or enumerative bibliographies. Examples include national bibliographies, trade bibliographies, subject bibliographies, bibliography of bibliographies, universal bibliographies. So let's start with national bibliographies. What are they? National bibliographies list comprehensively materials published in a particular country. So once the material is coming for a particular country, such as Ghana, it lists materials published in the language of that country. So for instance, in the Ghana National Bibliography, we have titles in Ga, in Twi, in Ewe, in the local language of the particular country. National bibliographies contain materials on a particular country. So even if the material is published outside the country, but it is on Ghana or it is on the language of Ghana, it will enter into the national bibliography. National bibliographies are usually published under the auspices of a national library or another agency such as the Legal Deposits of Copyrighted Materials Office. National bibliographies are divided by time, form, and origin. What do we mean by time? Time includes the listing of works either previously published or works being published now or works to be published. That is, in a bibliography you have current as well as retrospective information. To be divided by form, this means the National Bibliography should list all the collection of works, whether they are monographs, whether they are components such as essays, periodical articles, and it should also tell us the form, whether it's a book format or a database, a recordings, or pamphlets, or even microfilm. And then national bibliographies are also divided by origin. By origin we mean where it is published, which organization is producing it, or which publisher has produced it. So let's look at additional uses of bibliographies. You can recollect that we had three main uses of bibliographies. Now, when we come to national bibliography, we'll have more uses of the national bibliography. So if you can recollect, we said bibliographies are used for identification and verification, location, and selection. That is the standard definition for a bibliography. Now, what about the other uses of national bibliography? One important use is for the preservation of a country's intellectual property, so that everything which is published in the country does not get lost. So the national bibliography will ensure that anything published by a Ghanaian in Ghana or a Ghanaian outside Ghana or even by a foreigner but on Ghana will be published in the national bibliography. Another important use of a national bibliography is for collection development, especially for retrospective collecting, where currency is not very imperative. We just want to know what has been published in Ghana, and then you acquire them for your library or for your center. Another use of a national bibliography is to obtain current bibliographic sources of books or materials which have been published. Similarly, you also need retrospective materials. So the National Bibliography would provide you with current as well as retrospective materials. They have different frequency times. Some appear weekly, some appear monthly or annually, or multi-year cumulations. National bibliographies also facilitate international exchange of cataloging data, so that you do not need to do original cataloging because the information has been cataloged for you. So you only need to do copy cataloging, paste the information into your database, and then you are ready to go. National bibliographies, whilst providing the cataloging information, would give you the subject headings, will provide the author, the title, the publication data, and to provide all these things in the National Bibliography. National Bibliography also helps you to verify bibliographic information. For instance, you want to check the spelling of an author's name, or you want to find out the heading for a particular material. This can be found in the National Bibliography. And additionally, it brings enormous order out of the chaos of tens of thousands of items published each year. Every year, many people are publishing. So if you don't get the National Bibliography to be able to control what has been published, you would realize that your intellectual property is lost and is gone forever. So let's look at some advantages of National Bibliography for collection development, because you use that to be able to select materials which are not in your publication. It also helps you to find out the information such as who is the author, the title. So it provides accuracy, and it lists everything that has been published now, what was even published in the past, and what will be published in the future. That means forthcoming publications are listed, which enable the librarian or the information professional to be able to plan, to know which materials to purchase. As we talk of advantages, we can also talk of disadvantages. So one advantage is for collection development, and we have a similar disadvantage for collection development, in that because it focuses on only one country, you are limited to materials produced in a particular country. But you know that when you are building a collection, you do not only need materials for one country. You need materials from every country, from Ghana as well as other countries. So in terms of collection development, it becomes a disadvantage in this sense. Again, in national bibliographies, it's not all types of materials which are covered. For instance, if you take the British National Bibliography, it does not contain certain materials such as music, maps, periodicals, and the others. Again, another disadvantage is the delay in getting the items listed in the National Bibliography. For instance, in Ghana, we have a delay in getting authors to deposit their materials with the national, what we call the National Bibliographic Office. And this time, the work is being handled by George Padmore Library. So as long as there's a delay from the authors in depositing, we will have a delay in the compilation of the National Bibliography. And so what do we say? So to conclude, we say national bibliographies, therefore, can only be considered as alerting tools. To be able to build your collection, you need not only the national bibliographies, but you will need the reviews. You remember we talked about American Reference Book Annual, which is a book review. Yes, we need examples of book reviews such as the ARBA. We also need subject bibliographies. We will need even catalogs from publishers to be able to develop our collection. So examples of national bibliographies include the British National Bibliography. This is part of your assignment, so we would go quickly through other titles that you have to work on. So you need to work on the National Bibliography, British National Bibliography. You also need to work on the Ghana National Bibliography. You need to examine those two bibliographies in detail to be able to get a comprehensive understanding of what national bibliographies are. So ladies and gentlemen, we go to our next topic, which is on trade bibliographies. What are trade bibliographies? They are commercial publications which provide the book trade information. And so when we talk of book trade information, information such as who is the author, the title, the publication, how much does the book cost? So trade books are intended for sale to the general public, and these are available in bookstores. They are letting devices that make no statement on the value of the works cited. By this, we mean that they just list simply the works which are available from their publishing houses. They provide no statement. That means they do not provide any evaluation or any summary of the particular listed material. And as a bibliography, it sets itself limits of time, form, and origin. You recollect that we looked at what time, form, and origin means in the first topic, under the first topic. So what are uses of trade bibliographies? They list titles that are currently available from a whole series of publishers within a particular geographical area. And they are so important because they'll provide you with the basic purchasing data, such as how much the book costs, who is the publisher of the book, and where you can get the book from. So let's look at advantages of trade bibliographies. They are useful for collection development. They are useful especially for the acquisitions librarian, because trade bibliographies also have a supplement, usually known as a subject guide, which is very, very useful. In that particular subject guide, it lists titles available under different subjects. So it's easy to find out which materials you're looking for. Assuming you're building your collection in chemistry, you just go to the section which has the chemistry materials, and then you select your materials. So they are useful for the acquisitions librarian. And then also useful to find out if an item is available and how much it costs. And they give you a lot of information, such as the title, the correct spelling of author's name or co-author's name. It gives you information of the ISBN, which is the International Standard Book Number. It gives you the price so that it helps the librarian to be able to budget. Usually you would have librarians listing materials that they will need in what you call the desiderata file. That means the things that they would desire. So once the trade bibliography comes out, they cross-check it against what they will need or what they will desire, and they make their purchases. So it's a very handy tool for any library trying to build their collection, especially in a particular subject area, because these materials come from publishers within a particular geographical area. So what are some disadvantages? Now, because they confine the materials to a particular geographical area, it means that you can only make your collection from those particular geographical areas. Meanwhile, when you're building your collection, you need materials from different areas. So that becomes a disadvantage in using only a trade bibliography to build your collection. Also note that certain non-trade publications, such as textbooks, government documents, encyclopedias, dissertations are not listed in trade bibliographies. And so there is a limitation there. In addition, they are not evaluative, as I mentioned. They do not give you any annotation, neither do they give you any summary or abstract of the book. And so you cannot decide whether this particular title is better than the other title. And so for that reason, you should also use trade bibliographies. Just as you use the national bibliographies, it should be used as alerting tools, and that you would never use only the trade bibliographies to build your collection. So let's look at some important trade bibliographies. So for your assignments, you have Books in Print. That's an American publication which lists publications from US publishers. Look at Books in Print, and also look at its supplements called the Subject Guide to Books in Print. Very important. And for your activity, you will need to visit any library of your choice, preferably an academic library, and examine the following in detail: the British National Bibliography, the Ghana National Bibliography, examine Books in Print, and also examine Subject Guide to Books in Print. So for this particular session, we have looked at national bibliographies, with specific examples being the British National Bibliography and the Ghana National Bibliography. We have also looked at Books in Print, with specific examples being Books in Print and Subject Guide to Books in Print. When you refer to your study guide, we will have an outline of how you're supposed to examine these materials. So kindly refer to your outline to be able to do this assignment. Thank you very much for listening.